Hello BookTube! I didn't plan to do a whole lot of book hauls this year because, generally speaking, I'm under a 100% book buying ban because I own way too many books that I have not read. And one of my goals for 2017 is actually to read the books that I already own that I have not read before. In January and February, I have not stuck to this ban very well. I'm coming to you today to talk about a few books that I have purchased. Now, all things considered, this is not a big haul. This is a pretty small haul, and I got all of the books in this haul for a very good price. So one of the reasons I've kind of been buying more books is because I've been selling a lot of books. I've unhauled at least 3 boxes of books from my last move, and while I was at Half Price Books, I couldn't help myself, and I went through their bargain bin to look for anything that looked good, and I found a few things. So I have 5 books this month that I purchased. 2 of them were definitely a impulse. I have never read the author before, and I don't know anything about this series, but I found the Oathbound and Oathbreakers, 2 books by Mercedes Lackey, for $1 a piece. And I know that Mercedes Lackey is kind of a classic, well-regarded female fantasy writer, and I have never read her, but I think that's unfortunate. I think she's someone who I should read just to see if I like her work. I want to say she is one of the authors that have been republished as part of the SFF Masterworks. I could be wrong about that, but I think she is. And these 2 books are actually really pretty. They both have, it looks like, female warriors on the cover, and I'm intrigued. And then the third thing I purchased with those books, completely unrelated. This book has been on my to-read list for several years, and it is Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell. And again, I got this book for like $2, being clearance off at Half Price Books, and I desperately, desperately want to read David Mitchell, and specifically this book, because it sounds fascinating. I personally really loved the movie. The book sounds just as utterly intriguing and engaging, and the format, or the style of David Mitchell's writing, sounds like something that I would be really interested in. I love nonlinear narrative. I love intertwined stories, so I'm very curious to check this one out. The next thing I purchased was another book that has been on my TBR for several years. This was actually on my TBR well before the movie came out, and I really wanted to read it. But because I'm an incredibly slow reader, I did not get around to reading it before the film, and that is Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. I got it for $2. It was being sold by the Friends of the Library, which means all the proceeds go towards helping my local library, which I think is a great cause. So I don't really feel guilty about purchasing this, especially since it is something I really want to read. And then the last thing I purchased this month, it's The Eye of Zoltar by Jasper Fforde. I paid $4 for this, but it is a brand new copy. This is a middle grade book, which I don't usually purchase, but right before I purchased this, I was having a conversation with my sister about books for my nephew, who is 12. This is a fantasy novel that I think has kind of science fiction-y, possibly steampunky elements, so it's not necessarily in his wheelhouse. However, Jasper Fforde, I would say one of my top 5 favorite living authors. He wrote The Air Affair, which is the first book in the Thursday Next series, which is one of my favorite series. He also wrote the Nursery Crimes Mysteries. The first book in that series is The Big Over Easy, which also one of my favorite novels. He's so funny, and I had no idea that he had started writing middle grade. So I'm curious to see if his middle grade series is as good as his adult books. Admittedly, this is the 3rd book in a series. I haven't read the first 2, but I also think that if I can read a 3rd book in a series and enjoy it and be inspired to read the other books, that's a good sign. So I'm going to read this. I'm going to see if it's any good. I'll be passing it along to my sister so she can read it, and I'm really hoping that I've found something that the whole family can basically enjoy. So those are the books I bought in February. Weird mix. Let me know if you've read any of these books. I'd love to hear from anyone who's also read Jasper Fforde, and I'll see you guys all very soon. Bye!